All right, so finally you can see here now we're going to get to the last section here with 1.2, but you can see that I have the ability in these videos to remove the PowerPoint slides, and so I have a bigger space here to write on and so forth, or it just might be a little less distracting. So I'll do that from time to time in these videos. Now, we're going to look at some exercises here from 1.2 just to give you, again, a better sense as to how to distinguish between arguments and non-arguments. And so I'm going to look at the exercise number 2 from the exercises from 1.2. And as we see here, it says, if public education fails to improve the quality of instruction in both primary and secondary schools, then it is likely that it will lose additional students to the private sector in the years ahead. So our task here is to decide if it's an argument or not. If it is an argument, identify the conclusion, and you could do that by just circling. And if it's not an argument, to identify what kind of non-argument it is. I would hope that in this passage, the word that jumps out at us most would be that very first one, the word if, right? So we know we're dealing with a conditional statement. Now, given what we just saw in the previous video, we might think, oh, wait, conditional statement, not an argument. And we've got to be careful here. What we said was that a single conditional statement is not an argument. Now, we have to read this passage again, probably, to realize that, in fact, yes, this is just a single conditional statement. It's just if this, then this, kind of like the scheme we see here, right? If, and then what? Public education fails to improve the quality of instruction in both primary and secondary schools, then it is likely that it will lose additional students to the private sector in the years ahead. And so it is simply an if, this, then this, not an argument. But remember that if you see the word if in a passage, it may be that you have a conditional statement that is, in fact, part of an argument because it's a longer bit than just a single conditional statement like that. Okay, so looking here now at number 3, this is a particularly important passage or example. Number 3 says, freedom of the press is the most important of our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms. Without it, our other freedoms would be immediately threatened. Furthermore, it provides the fulcrum for the advancement of new freedoms. Okay? And so again, we're thinking about is it an argument or not? And as you're doing this, right, if you're thinking it might be an argument, you should be looking for a conclusion. Can you find one of those statements in there that would serve as the conclusion? And if you think it's not an argument, you should be thinking about, well, what type of non-argument might it fit into, what identify as? Again, remember on the exam, you won't have to go that far, but the more confident you are that a particular passage is a certain kind of non-argument, again, you'll be better off. So in this one, I think that it's going to jump out that that first statement is the most important one there, right? Freedom of the press is the most important of our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms. Seems to be a critical point here. In the other two statements there, without it, our other freedoms would be immediately threatened, and furthermore, it provides the fulcrum for the advancement of new freedoms. Those, of course, are offering evidence for that first statement. So, in fact, this is an argument. It's attempting to establish or prove, we could say, that freedom of the press is the most important of our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms. So, argument with the first statement there being the conclusion. Now, let me ask this question to change this example just slightly. What if the very first statement there said instead, freedom of the press is an important constitutionally guaranteed freedom? Not that it's the most, right, but just one of the important constitutionally guaranteed freedoms, right? And then the rest of it remain the same. Well, in that case, right, in thinking about the context of this classroom or Everett Community College students, I would think it would be agreed upon that freedom of the press, right, you might not think it's the most important of our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms, but that it is one of the important constitutionally guaranteed freedoms, I would think that would be general knowledge for our students. And so if we change that first statement to say it's an important constitutionally guaranteed freedom, in fact, this passage wouldn't be trying to prove the first statement. It would simply be explaining why the first statement was true. In other words, it would be an explanation if we were to change, again, that first statement from the most important to simply an important constitutionally guaranteed freedom. So I hope that gives you, again, more of a sense as to what distinguishes between explanations and arguments. All right, finally, I'll just do one more here real quick just to make sure this is sinking in. In the next page there we have number 5, where it reads, "It is strongly recommended that you have your house inspected for termite damage at the earliest possible opportunity." So it's a short passage. We can ask ourselves, are they offering reasons for some statement? Doesn't seem like it, right? Seems like they're either offering some kind of a suggestion, warning, right? Probably warning is the best fit here, right? And if it's simply a warning and no evidence is given for it, it's not an argument, right? It's just a warning. Now again, if this statement here were part of a fuller report, right? If this person said, look, there's a pile of sawdust here at the base of your house, and see these little creatures going back and forth? Those are termites. Therefore, it is strongly recommended that you have your house inspected for termite damage at the earliest possible opportunity, right? All of that, what I just said, that would be an argument, right? Because it'd be giving reasons to believe this statement here that we read in the book. But as it's written, there's no reasons given to believe it. Therefore, it would not be an argument. All right? So we've covered 1.2. Again, the key here to getting this down is to go back now and certainly start with the starred problems from this exercise set and then continue on to doing the other non-starred problems.